So I'm close to finishing Edward Snowden's book, Permanent Record. And one question I have really is what has been the outcome of him coming forward and exposing the NSA mass surveillance program? What has happened with that? Well, one of the things is that they were basing this bulk intelligence collection, just basically sweeping up everything that ever went on any electronic device and collecting it and storing it indefinitely. They were basing that on the Patriot Act. And one of the paragraphs that kind of made it seem like they should be able to do that, right? So one of the changes is the USA Freedom Act, and that amends that paragraph and says they can't do the bulk collection just on anyone. But how they word it, it says when it comes to telephones. So I kind of like to look at that as it relates to our current technology, because our technology changes so quickly sometimes that it doesn't keep up with the wording of bills passed in our Congress that are meant to protect us somehow, or we would imagine so at least. And since they kind of like to interpret things and then do whatever they want, when I say they, I'm talking about our intelligence agencies, then how would we ever know how they're interpreting it other than having a whistleblower come forward like Edward Snowden? But based on how they treat whistleblowers and our history of that, and especially our recent history and all the political persecution and reprisal, the chance of having whistleblowers kind of diminishes, because anyone that comes forward and tries to do the same thing just seems to be shot. And since they kind of like to interpret things and then do whatever they want, when I say they, I'm talking about our intelligence agencies, then how would we ever know how they're interpreting it other than having a whistleblower come forward like Edward Snowden? But based on how they treat whistleblowers and our history of that, and especially our recent history and all the political persecution and reprisal, the chance of having whistleblowers kind of diminishes, because anyone that comes forward and tries to do the same thing just seems to be shot. Which leaves us to the only way we could really know what they're doing is to kind of reverse engineer things they say, or to look at the bills and what they've done in the past and speculate on what they could be doing with our information now. So yeah, what do we have now that is not specifically mentioned in these bills? And one thing I can point to really is gonna be AI, and how it doesn't specifically deal with our phone, because we have AI enabled devices all over our homes sometimes, and sometimes we have things like Alexa and Siri and whatever, they're just constantly recording, even though they say that they're not. So yeah, how would the laws that are in place right now protect us from them mass collecting that if they wanted to? Then we have the situation where we have the FBI just assigning people to terrorist watch lists. Large amounts of people for things that are questionable. And I'm talking about their domestic terrorist watch list. So, what does that give them the right to do? And does that mean that they can bulk collect on all those people they assigned as terrorist watch list people? So yeah, lots of ways to get around the protections that were supposed to be protections. And now I see it, we kind of have to think that way of what kind of mischief and messed up things could they be doing now that they had their hands tied in certain respects. Because just passing a law to say, oh, we're fixing that part of the Patriot Act so that they can't do that anymore, doesn't really mean that they're not gonna keep trying to find a way to violate our rights.